It is 8 o'clock in the morning. I am tired, but I'm gonna do things because soon it will be too hot and I will not want to do things at all. Also, the earlier the better for picking dandelions if you don't like bugs. Yeah, so the plan for the day was to pick dandelions. I didn't know what I wanted to do with them yet, but I knew if I just acquired them, I could decide that later. And as mentioned before, not only I like the dandelions, the bugs do too. Internet's tip to get as few of them as possible to how to clean out later is to pick them early in the morning. I personally don't have a great hate for bugs in general, but I'd rather not bring them into my house. I quite quickly gathered up a sort of respectable amount, and some pretty hand stains. As I ran out of dandelions, Amber and I then changed locations, which of course had the bonus of a happy doggo who got some exercise. It wasn't very hard to find more dandelions because they are freaking everywhere, and my amount of dandelions went from respectable to unnecessary many. We were caught up by the bugs, the sun, and the heat. Amber demonstrated this by plopping herself down in the shade. So we got ourselves home. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with them. But no matter what you make, the suggestion is generally that you remove all the bitter stuff, the green stuff. Personally, I'm a little bit lazy and like to do this with a scissor. You can make things of almost everything on the dandelion. The leaves can be used as salads, the roots can be used in pesto, the leaves can also be used in pesto. Seriously, just Google it. There's an endless amount of things you can make with dandelions. Speaking from experience, I know that in almost anything you make from the flowers will taste a little bit like honey. I have myself tried to make tea and dandelion syrup with good results. A few years ago I even tried to make wine, but it didn't go very well as I put them in water and then I left them there, forgot about them and it started to mold. In between I rinsed them, just in case there were still any bugs or any other icky stuff on them. This is what it looked like about halfway. Then I got tired and bored and gave up for the day. By the next day I had decided what I wanted to do with the dandelions. I had gelatin and sugar at home, so I decided it was candy that was the thing. Before using gelatin leaves, you need to put them into cold water. Recipes usually say about 5 minutes. I usually start with it so I don't forget it. I had a lot of dandelion to make candy of. When I read up on it, it said that about 8 gelatin leaves would be good for 500 milliliters of water. That is if you want pretty dense candy. I decided that all that dandelion should be good for at least 750 milliliters of water and put in 12 leaves. With me, everything I make is a experiment. And here is where I failed. I added more than 750 milliliters. This because I was thinking we're gonna boil this water. It will evaporate, right? Also, the dandelions are gonna be like a sponge. Take a lot of the water away. Don't be like me. I was being far too optimistic with water. I set the water to boil. Added the dandelion. And then I left it to boil for about 20 minutes, whisking it around every now and then. After those 20 minutes, I took it off the stove. It already smelled like honey, and the water has that sort of color too. I poured the water through a colander. The flour has done its job by now.
Ow! 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 Ow!
Don't worry. Finally, I was clever enough to bring out a tool to squeeze out the last of the liquid. I poured it all back over in the pot again. And on the stove it went. I needed the heat to dissolve the sugar and the gelatin. I wasn't sure how much sugar to add, but I added about 3 or 4 deciliters of sugar in the end, mixing in between to make sure that it dissolved properly. Cut to me! Lost in the kitchen because I cannot find the gelatin. Sometimes I seriously wonder if I've angered some fae or something. Spoiler alert, I moved the container to support my camera. It's a wonder I didn't see it here. Can you see it? Because I didn't for like an hour after this. It's here, by the way. Seriously can't find the gelatin, but apparently I have cheese in my pocket. I finally found it. In the window. Right there. So, let's do this. I picked up the gelatin, squeezed out as much water as I could from it, and then I plopped it down in the boiling dandelion mix. Yes, I had to reheat it. It was definitely cold. I do some more whisking because apparently you can't whisk enough if you're me. It was finally time to pour it up in the molds. Mine are actually just funny ice cube molds from dollar store. I didn't have enough molds, so I kept the dandelion stuff on a low heat on the stove while the rest hardened. This batch got messy for several reasons. Number 1, too much water. Number 2, what is that spoon I'm pouring with? For the second molding, I used a much smaller spoon. I put my molds in the fridge, and then it was about a waiting game. About 3 hours, at least. I think I waited 2. By then, the light of day was gone, and it was still a little bit sloppy. Some of them fell apart, but those that didn't turned out pretty dang cute. There is a lot of footage here for me to talk over, so I'm gonna tell you what I would have done differently if I did it again. Of course, number 1 is less water. Number 2, I think, would be to add some kind of citrus, like lemon zest or lemon juice. Number 3, wait for them to harden properly. These were absolutely fine, but they could have been more candy and less 50s dessert. Comparison time between the first ones I made and the ones that were both boiled longer and kept in the fridge longer. The second batch was definitely better. But all in all, I was quite happy with this experiment. Let's see what the husband says. What did you just tell me?
I've been taking a few.
So, are they good?
Yeah.
So, honey, you watch more YouTube than I do.
Yeah.
Like, do I have a TikTok?
Yeah.
What am I called there?
Hydrogen Kitty.
Do I have a coffee?
Yes.
And what am I called there?
Hydrogen Kitty.
So basically, if you want to find me, what do you search for?
Hydrogen Kitty.
And what do we want the audience to do?
To like, share and subscribe.